What's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here of Marty Music. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting my new thing here, Marty Music. We got the YouTube channel right here. We got martymusic.com. Really appreciate all that continued support. We've got tons of brand spanking new videos coming your way. I'm not spanking the videos though. But anyway, they're coming your way every week, and I appreciate that continued support. So thank you so much. This is a Friday technique lesson, and always getting lots of questions on mixing the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. And in my own guitar experience, there's a lot of different ways to approach that concept. So I'm going to give you one tiny little bit of that concept, and that way I think it will stick with you. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the progression. And it's a G, it's a 12-bar blues in G, but it does the little quick change in the beginning. So I'm going to play that progression one time through for you, and then we'll talk about the tiny little concept that we're going to be doing in the lesson. So we've got a G7, quick change to C7. Now the G7 twice as long. Now the C7 twice as long. Now the G7 for the same time. Now the D7, which is the 5 down to the 4. And then any kind of turnaround. The whole thing starts over again. G7, quick change to C7, the 4 chord, back to the 1 for twice as long, etc. So here's the concept. We're going to base it. Now, one thing I've said this over and over, G blues, G minor pentatonic, or G blues scale same thing, an octave up, 15th fret, same exact thing. Nothing different. Same fingering, everything, right? So the G blues scale, if you get lost trying to play major and minor, mixing it up, you can always fall back on just that straight blues scale. Our ear accepts that that works over the 12-bar blues. But here's a way to get the more nuanced sound. Anytime you're on the G7 of the progression, we're going to use the G major pentatonic. But without learning a whole scale, we're just going to keep it all based on our home root of the blues, G. We're going to just focus on that root note. So that way this concept will work even if you're lost in the scales. If you know where your G notes are for all of the blues, this concept will work. So here's what we're going to do. For any time it's on G7, we're going to play the G major pentatonic, but specifically we're going to aim for the major third of that chord, which is a B note. So what we're doing is we can visualize the G, but we're going to bend the 5th fret up a whole step to the B note. But only when it's on the G7. And then when it's the C7, we're going to emphasize the B flat note, which would be bending this up a half step. And then back to the G7, you bend it up a whole step. Then on the 5 chord, we're going to emphasize the 5th fret of the high E. And then it's the C7, which would be the B flat. And then the G7, which would be the B natural. So I'll do that over the jam track, and I'm going to keep it very simple right now, and then we're going to expand it. So remember, anytime it's the G7, we're going to be bending this up a whole step. When it's the C7, we bend it up a half step. And when it's the D7, it's natural. All from this spot, and we're locating it by finding, kind of seeing where the root is. Because we're in blues and G, So I know a G note's right there. And then now we have this concept to play major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, mixing it over the blues. So here we go. G7, C7, G7. Now half step, C7. Now up a whole step. Now natural. Then up a half step for C7. Then up a whole step for G7. Now the natural for D. C7. Regular blues. Okay, so that would mean the same thing would work up here on the 15th. So, like I said, limiting our knowledge so we can kind of get a feel for that is good. But then expanding from there, whenever it's G7, you got that thing we were just doing, which is a B note, right? But here's the whole little box now with 3 strings. That B note's right here on the 4th of the G. So we're going to hammer that from the 3rd. Then we're going to play 3-5 on the B. Then we got the root, then we got the 5th fret, and then the whole step bend. Then when we've got the C7, which was that half step bend, we can do that, or we can do the rest of just the straight G minor pentatonic. So anytime it's on the C7, you want to play the G minor pentatonic because it has the notes of C7 in it. Specifically, I mean, what really lays it out that are really strong is that 3rd fret, which is the B flat, like we were doing in that half step bend. You can play it natural, right? Back to the G7. And then on the D7, it's really still kind of using the D major pentatonic for this lesson today. So that's something that now I'm going to expand on. And now, the first example, I really laid on those bend notes because I want that to be the concept. But now I'm going to play with that idea and see if you can kind of pick up on what I'm doing through osmosis here. And it's the same concept, but now I'm expanding my vocabulary out a little bit. For instance, anytime it's on C7, we're only talking about 3 chords here. So anytime it's on that C7, instead of bending the 5th fret up a half step, I still want you to do that, but you also have the B flat right there. Instead of bending a half step up to it, you can go right to it and bend that up a whole step because it's coming from that minor pentatonic I was talking about. So I'm going to do that. First time, I'm going to reacquaint us with the original concept, then I'll expand. Here we go. Here we go. So G major pentatonic, G minor pentatonic over C, back to G major, still G major. Here comes the C, and we're going to play that's all G minor pentatonic over the C7, back to G major because it's over G7. D7, C7, octave up. So that was major. Here comes G minor pent over C, G major pent over G7. Here comes G minor over the C7. G major. D7. C7. G major. G major over G7. C7, so we'll play G minor pen. G major again over G7. Now G minor over C7. G major again. D. So I know already that one question is going to be, wait, G minor pentatonic over C? I'm confused. Why don't I play a C scale over C and a G and blah, blah, blah? Well, it's a deep rabbit hole to dive down. And so for this particular lesson, what I want to tell you is that we're playing G major pentatonic over the G7 because it has the most chord tones in it. Even though our ear accepts G minor blues scale over it, the G major pent has more chord tones in of a G7 chord. And since we're playing blues in G, I'm just thinking of kind of like one scale that's, okay, the G major scale for the first chord, the G minor scale for the 4 chord, and I can do either for the 5 chord, but I'm going to kind of lay on some notes. That's why we're thinking of it. But if you look at a C7 chord or a C9 chord, it's got that note in there. And I can tell you that these notes are in the scale that the C7 comes from. So we're just referring everything to a G scale, but it just so happens that the G minor pentatonic scale shares all these chord tones of a C7 chord. And for that 5 chord, that D, we were kind of trying to emphasize this A natural note. But the cool thing about the turnaround, the 5 chord, is that you can play the G major pentatonic or the G minor pentatonic over it, and they both have their own qualities to it. So hopefully that helped. I'm going to play through it one more time, and at the end of this video, remember there's a jam track that there'll be a link to. There was the lesson. Thank you so much. I hope you got a little bit of stuff to dig into from that. Remember, right after my spiel here, you're going to see a little end plate with a link to the jam track, just a free YouTube video. You can go right there and start practicing this stuff. Thanks again for supporting me right here at Marty Music. Tons of brand new content coming your way every week, and I'm so excited and thrilled to be back teaching you guys and interacting with you and giving you guys what you want. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.